Sunday brunch at Lantern and Lark is usually a rhythm I can keep with my eyes closed. Lemongrass hisses, the espresso machine coughs. My line-cook June swears in haikus. I was glazing pork belly when Mom glided in with a tray of pandan scones and said too softly, "Mira, don't sign anything today." I laughed because it sounded like a joke. She didn't. 10 minutes later, Dad set down a stack of folders in the office and announced a small change in structure. My brother Kai would be helping more. The air shifted. I made a decision in that moment that would save my future, even if it broke my heart. If you're listening, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. I'm going to tell you how a family cafe almost ate me alive and how I walked out whole. My name is Mira Lay. I'm 33. For 11 years, I've bled for Lantern and Lark, our Vietnamese cafe on a sloped corner of Capitol Hill, Seattle. When we opened, the sign hung perfectly straight. Now it tilts a little to the left like it's tired. I get it. My grandparents came from Da Nang with 2 suitcases and a tin box of recipes written in Vietnamese cursive. I still struggle to read. They pushed carts, then ran a booth, then raised my father Thuan, who grew up measuring star anise in teaspoon halves. My mother Lynn learned pastry in a motel kitchen with a borrowed oven that smoked like a dragon. They named the cafe after a paper lantern my grandfather kept lit during storms. "You keep the light," he'd say. "People will find you." When we opened Lantern and Lark, I was 22, stubborn, and broke. I did night classes at community college. I staged for free in places that would not let me touch their fish knives. I learned to temper chocolate at 1 a.m. and to sleep 4 hours like it was a hobby. We had 7 kinds of fish sauce on a shelf and no POS system. Mom still counted change with a coin sorter the color of bubble tea. Kai-hi was the story my parents told guests. "Our son is in Boston." Dad would say, "Pride shining, MBA, the golden syllables." Kai called on holidays, sent selfies from rooftop parties, and posted TED Talks about resilience. Our mother decorated his framed graduation photo with fake cherry blossoms. Mine is tacked near the mop sink, crooked, which is funny in a way that isn't. I'm the responsible one, the checklist queen, the boring sister who actually shows up. My family label was clear by age 10, steady, useful, safe to ignore. Self-preservation, though, that took longer. 5 years in, I tore out the scratched laminate tables and called a woodworker who made 12 cedar slabs that smelled like rain. We shrank seating from 60 to 48. People stayed longer. They spent more. I built our menu around a farm in Duval that texted me pictures of morning harvests. We swapped stale baguettes for Mom's shatter-crisp pandan loaves. I trained the servers to describe nuke chom like wine. "Salt lime heat umami sunshine," I'd say, and they'd laugh, then repeat it to guests who tipped better. We stopped just being the faux place near the tattoo shop. We became a destination. The stranger called us comfort with a spine. A blogger wrote that our chicken congee tasted like an apology you deserved. Weekend lines wrapped the block. I learned to keep flasks of ginger tea under the counter for shivering grandmas. I learned the names of every kid who would only eat plain rice and cucumbers. I learned where the floor creaked. I also learned my parents' smiles got wider when Kai walked in. He'd drift through twice a year with a scarf and a new startup idea. He'd say things like, "Scale this into micro-franchises," and I'd say, "We have one wok big enough for a toddler to bathe in." "Calm down!" He'd pitch app-based ordering to replace the front counter. He would not notice Mom's face fall at the thought of losing eye contact with guests. He always hugged my parents for a beat longer than me. If you know, you know. The first red flag flapped 4 months before the meeting. Rhea Kapoor, director at Skylark Events, slid into a corner booth with a notebook and bright eyes. Skylark handles the fancy corporate things, product launches, board dinners, charity galas. "We need a partner for Puget Mutual's quarterly events," she said. 3 years. Consistent. Elevated, not stiff. Your food does that. I did the math on a sticky note. $550,000 over 36 months. Predictable. Transformative. I saw new equipment, fair raises, health insurance for every line cook. I saw Mom sleeping past dawn. For 6 weeks, I built a proposal like a cathedral. Menus for all seasons. A separate gluten-free line for the CFO, who can't have soy. Batch timelines with second-by-second notes so June wouldn't combust. Wine pairings that weren't lazy. I priced down to the grain of rice. We ran test dinners, invited Ria's team, fed them caramelized fish in clay pots that sang like bells. They signed off on everything but the ink. The final presentation was set for Tuesday at 10 a.m. That's when Mom whispered, "Don't sign anything today." "Since when do we not sign good things?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. She stared at the floor. "Just wait for the family meeting." 2 hours later, Kai breezed in wearing sneakers that probably had their own trust fund. He kissed Mom's cheek, clapped Dad on the back, and squeezed my shoulder like a coach. "Big sister," he said, ready for the next level. I smelled expensive citrus cologne and saw a half-unzipped laptop bag with tabs labeled Brand Retail and Ghost Kitchen. My stomach dropped. The second red flag. I wish I could say this surprised me. It didn't. The truth is, patterns announce themselves. When you're the responsible one, you keep forgiving. Then one day you stop. I need to tell you who stood with me. There's Tess, my anchor. She runs a tiny plant shop around the corner and texts me every time she sees my shoulders near my ears. Unclenched, she'll write and bring over a pot of basil when I forget to eat. There's Noah, my validator. He's our senior barista, quiet, observant, allergic to nonsense. He sees shifts in systems before anyone else. There's Mrs. Alvarez, the revealer, our accountant, who never means to drop bombs but does. And there's June's niece, Amy, 16, sunny, innocent, who thinks every adult knows what they're doing. Bless her heart. The day before the meeting, Noah knocked on the office door and closed it behind him. "You know that big tasting tomorrow?" he asked. "Presentation," I corrected, tapping through slides. "Right. Kai printed copies of your deck this morning," he said. He was adding his logo to the cover. My logo. Noah's mouth tilted. His consulting LLC. Guided by Kai. He spelled guided right at least. I felt my cheeks go hot. I laughed. Then I didn't. Breadcrumb number 3. That night, Tess dragged me to her shop under the pretense of repotting a fern. We sat among rows of peace lilies like we were staging a truce. "You look like a person bracing for a wave," she said. "Family meeting tomorrow," I said. "Ah." She poured tea into chipped bowls. "You have rules, Mira. Say them out loud. Don't sign anything without a lawyer," I said. "Don't accept a title that sounds pretty but kills my power. Don't cry in front of people who enjoy it." Tess grinned. Good rules. Back at the café, the closing crew joked about our 12 different chili pastes, the mustard principle I call it. One unforgettable detail per scene. Tonight it was a jar of homemade satay that stained everything it touched the color of fight. I labeled it in big letters so no one grabbed it by mistake. Later, this would matter. I could feel the ground tilting the way the sidewalk outside our door does, where the old tree roots push up the concrete. It's subtle until you trip. Morning came too bright. Seattle can do that in June. The light bounces off windows and makes even closed signs look hopeful. I prepped early because action is how I pray. Then I changed into a clean chambray shirt, pulled my hair into a knot, and printed 3 bound copies of my proposal. I tucked a handwritten note to Mom inside one that said, "This secures everyone." I wanted her to see it as a gift, not a threat. At 1:57 p.m., Dad called us to the back dining room. The tables were pushed together like a tribunal. Mom sat with her palms flat on the wood. Kai took the chair at the head like he'd been born in it. I placed my 3 copies in front of them. Kai slid them aside and lifted his stack of folders. A glossy logo flashed. Guided by Kai. Mom didn't look up. Dad cleared his throat the way he does when he's about to say something he thinks is wise, and I know is going to hurt. The door clicked shut. The room went very quiet. The back dining room smelled like cedar and star anise. Noonlight cut a bright strip across the table. One chair was missing from the end, like the room already knew someone would stand. Dad folded his hands. For the future, he began. "We make a family company. One umbrella, less tax, more protection." Kai flashed his new logo. Sleek, silver. Guided by Kai, he said like a toast. "Step 1, we consolidate. Step 2, we expand. Retail sauces. A ghost kitchen in Bellevue. Licensing, national in 18 months. And Lantern and Lark," I asked. "Becomes the flagship," he said. "You head of culinary. I handle brand capital and scale." It sounded like a promotion. It smelled like a downgrade. Mom watched me still and pale. She had told me not to sign. Now she stared at the wood grain like it could speak for her. Kai slid a packet across the table. Management services agreement, he said. Standard stuff, 12% fee on gross. I'll cover strategy partnerships, vendor contracts. 12% of gross, I said. Not net. Industry norm, he said. You don't want to deal with investors, Mira. Let me. You focus on food. I turned the pages. The paper felt heavy, like it wanted to stay put. Clauses blinked at me. Exclusive right to negotiate external contracts. Authority to approve or deny new hires AP consolidation assignment of marks. I put my finger on a line. Assignment of marks. For legal cleanliness, he said. We park the trademark in a new vehicle. Safer that way. What vehicle, I asked. L&L. IPE Holdings LLC, he said casual like he was naming a pet. Manager managed. Manager being you, I said. Temporarily, he said. Until the board us appoints officers. The board. Us. Words that include you until they don't. Dad tapped the table. Mira, he said in that father tone that turns daughters into children. We are together. We must appear serious to outside people. To outside people, Kai echoed smiling. Like Skylark. Like Puget Mutual. My mouth went dry. How do you know about Skylark? I asked. He leaned back. Ah, and I have mutual friends. Seattle is small. I slid my own proposal copies toward them. The presentation is tomorrow at 10. I built this for 6 weeks. I know, he said, and he sounded proud, like I had done a good chore. Which is why you need my structure before you go in the room. Bigger clients want a single point of contact, a strategist, not a chef with a spreadsheet. It was a clean hit, quiet, precise. He knew exactly where to place it. Noah knocked and poked his head in. Sorry, he said. Amy needs you for a second. Kai frowned. We're in a meeting. I stood. I'll be right back. In the kitchen, Amy held a tray like it weighed a mile. I spilled sot on the papers, she whispered. I'm so sorry. It got on the corner. The corner of what? The corner of a bound draft. The red oil spread in a crescent. It stained the small print near the footer. I dabbed with a towel. The oil bled the ink just enough for words to pop. Assignment of the trade name Lantern and Lark to L&L IP Holdings, LLC manager Kai Lei. I felt heat climb behind my ears. You did great catching me, I told her softly. No harm. Noah waited near the espresso machine. He didn't waste my time. 2 things, he said. Deposits from card sales are short by 3% this week. Mrs. Alvarez asked if you changed processors. Also, the morning you were at the farm, Kai had Dad sign a new merchant account. I don't think anyone realized it reroutes to a different bank. To what bank, I asked. Noah slid his phone over. A photo of a letter. As of June 1st, statements for L&L IP Holdings, LLC will be sent to a downtown address. Suite number I didn't recognize. My stomach did a slow, patient turn. Who got this? Mrs. Alvarez, he said. She's here, with payroll checks. Bring her to the office in 5, I said. Back in the kneading room, Kai had moved my copies out of the light strip. Ready? He asked Bright again. We can do signatures now, then celebrate. I sat and set my hands flat, like Mom had earlier. I want an attorney to review, I said. Independent. Mine. Kai kept the smile but adjusted the angle. Of course we should be thorough, he said. But Puget Mutual expects a unified front. We need to lock structure today. Who set that deadline, I asked. It's implied, he said. They're serious people. Dad nodded like a metronome. Serious people, he repeated. Mrs. Alvarez knocked and slipped in. I'll be quick, she said. Bank called. New account. Do I move tax payments there? Also, who is L&L IP Holdings? She looked at me because I'm the person who answers questions. Kai answered first. Our IP company, he said smoothly. I filed yesterday. Mrs. Alvarez blinked. Yesterday, she repeated. Then how did I receive mail for it last week? Silence. The jar of sot in the kitchen ticked in my head. Kai adjusted again. I pre-registered, he said. Basic prudence. Mrs. Alvarez opened her folder like a reveal on a cooking show. She laid down a state registry printout. Filed 2 months ago, she said. Manager Kai Lei. Address downtown suite. Mail forwarded. I brought this because I assumed Mira knew. I did not know. Mom closed her eyes for a beat. Dad looked at the ceiling. I could have yelled. I didn't. Quiet devastation over loud drama. That's my rule. Why didn't you tell me, I asked, voice even? Because you would have overthought it, Kai said. I was moving fast to protect us. You freeze when it's time to leap. There it was, the family label dressed in logic. I turned another page in his packet. Clause 14, I said, non-compete. I can't cook Vietnamese food within 50 miles for 3 years if I leave. Standard, he said again. Not for a family, I said. He leaned in. You're being emotional, Mira. We're trying to make you safe and rich. Safe and rich. One day I'll start a candle line with that name. I stood and walked to the office printer. I made a copy of the page with the red crescent. I underlined the footnote. I wrote in the margin, "This gives away our name." I slid the copy back to Mom. Her hand trembled. Just a flicker like a light in a storm. Tess texted at that exact second unclench. I almost laughed. Here's what happens, Kai said, rising like a coach with a whiteboard. We sign. I email Skylark to confirm I'm the point. We go in tomorrow united. We land the deal. Investors follow. In a year, we won't remember these details. I thought about the details I always remember. The 5 kinds of mustard at table 6. The way Mr. Tran folds napkins into little boats for his grandkids. The creak near the register that tells me a guest is about to ask for hot water. The jar of satay that bleeds like a warning. Give me the agreement, I said. Great, he said, half sitting, half standing. I said, give me the agreement, I repeated so I can bring it to counsel. He sighed. You're going to slow us down. I held his eyes. I'm going to keep us alive. He set the packet down harder than necessary. You have until tonight, he said. Midnight. We need to send Skylark the unified org chart by morning. Midnight is not law, I said. It's a choice, he grinned. Then choose well. The word choose did a small mean dance. After they filed out, Mom lagged. She touched my sleeve. Your father is proud, she said, without conviction. He thinks Kai understands outside things. What do you think I asked? She swallowed. I think you see inside things. She squeezed my arm and slipped away. I walked straight to the front counter. Noah had already pulled 3 espresso shots into a jar and added ice. He is the kind of person who anticipates the next 2 moves in chess and brings you caffeine for the 3rd. Tell me everything again, I said. He summarized. Merchant account switched, deposits short. Mrs. Alvarez looped. Also a tiny thing Kai asked me to send him the Skylark deck in PowerPoint, he said. I sent a PDF. He wasn't thrilled. Good, I said. I called Rhea. She picked up on the 2nd ring. How's my favorite chaos chef, she asked. Honest answer, I said. Navigating family structure. Quick ask, I want to keep the point of contact me and our accountant for now. If anyone else reaches out from my side, please loop me. Copy, she said. Is something off? Not off, I said. No surprises tomorrow, that's all. Got it, she said. Also, I have to tell you, your pricing notes were a small miracle. My COO cried happy tears. I closed my eyes and let that sentence rinse my brain. See you at 10, I said. When I hung up, a new email sat in my inbox. Trademark application submitted. Lantern and Lark, it read. Filed by L&L IP Holdings, LLC. Timestamp 6:12 a.m. today. Early, before the meeting, before my coffee. Before my mother told me not to sign. I forwarded the email to myself, then to Tess, with a single line. If I go missing, it's because paperwork ate me. She replied with a photo of a basil plant holding a toothpick flag that said, nope. At 6, the dinner rush hit. The jar of satay did its chaotic work on the line, painting the corner of a cutting board red. Amy wore it like war paint on her wrist. Guests laughed and slurped and asked for extra lime wedges. The sky outside did that Seattle blue that looks gentle and is not. I kept moving. When your heart is loud, motion is white noise. At closing, Mrs. Alvarez waited with a manila envelope. I printed the filing history, she said. Also, I pulled a preliminary on the merchant switch. The new bank account names a second signatory besides your parents. Kai, I said. She nodded. Also, she added, and her voice softened. You don't owe me a reason to say no. People forget that. I took the envelope. It had weight. Thank you, I said. As I locked the door, the tilted sign above the awning caught the last bit of evening. It looked like a question mark in wood and paint. I went home, set the packet on my kitchen table, and started reading with a pencil and a glass of water. I circled, underlined, and wrote no in the margins like a prayer. I drafted an email to an attorney Tess recommended and sent the agreements with subject urgent. I drafted a second email to Kai with a list of questions: who owns LNL IP? Why were deposits rerouted? Why is a non-compete in a family document? Why is 12% based on gross? Who is on the bank account? When did you tell our parents about the application? He replied fast. This is why you shouldn't read at night, he wrote. You catastrophize. Sleep. Sign in the morning. I'll make it easy. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I closed the laptop, washed my face, and lay in the dark. I listened to cars move like distant waves. I thought of my grandfather's paper lantern. I thought of light as a practice, not a thing. At 2:04 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Looking forward to working with you, Kai. Great chat today. A forwarded message from Ria. My chest went tight. He had reached out anyway. He had claimed the point without waiting. I texted Ria immediately. Thanks for the heads up. Please keep me primary. This is sensitive. She sent back a thumbs up and a skull emoji. Gallows humor. God bless event people. Morning would bring a choice. You know that feeling. The calm before a break. The sky can be so clear when a storm decides on you. I closed my eyes and pictured the room again. The missing chair. The bright strip of light. The red crescent on the page. The trap had snapped yes. But I still had two hands and a spine. I woke before my alarm, the way you do when your life has an appointment. Dawn slid over Capitol Hill like a blade. I showered, tied my hair back, and packed a small black crate porcelain spoons, a squeeze bottle of lime caramel, a jar of pickled shallots that clicked when I shook it, tasting spoons taped together with blue painter's tape. When I'm scared, I over-prepare. It looks like confidence from the outside. At 8:10 a.m., Noah handed me a paper cup. Courage, he said. Cinnamon orange peel, a whisper of chicory. He had written, "You've got this," on the lid. Tess pressed a tiny basil plant into my bag. Living proof, she said. Stuff grows after storms. Skylark's office downtown has a lobby that smells like new carpet and ambition. Ria met me in a blazer the color of unfussy money. You okay? She asked. I brought snacks, I said, because it was true, and because the other answer was long. We walked into a glass conference room with a single palm in the corner. The table had that stretchy, modern wood look that always makes me think of yoga mats. Puget Mutual arrived in careful order, COO first, then facilities, then a smiling HR director who looked like she collects enamel pins. The CFO came last, Christi allergy bracelet on his wrist. I had designed a separate prep line for him in my head. I placed a folded agenda in front of each chair. The top line read, Vendor of Record Paper, Lantern Provisions, a unit managed by Mira Lay. Beneath it, W-9 insurance certificate, kitchen address, food safety permits, point of contact me and Mrs. Alvarez. I had broken a family rule before 9 a.m., never split the brand. But if Kai parked Lantern and Lark in his shiny new box, I would not put one more brick on top. The cafe would stay the cafe. Catering would have its own door. Ria skimmed. Made to the page, clocked the name, shot me a micro glance, then smiled at the clients. Thanks for coming. Mira has something fun to start. Before we talk food, I said, can I ask a question? Heads lifted. What problem are you hiring us to solve? I kept my voice quiet. It makes people lean in. The COO nodded, almost relieved. Our people are tired, she said plainly. We're rebuilding culture, and it can't be pizza and warm soda. We want meals that feel intentional, not fussy, not fake healthy, just care. Care. I can do care. I slid a tray into the center. Pomelo smoked trout salad in little cups, I said. Clean, bright, no hidden allergens. I set a clay pot on a trivet. Steam kissed the glass. Caramelized gingerfish over congee. Comfort you can carry in a bowl during a town hall. Lime caramel for the brave side, ramekins for the cautious. HR laughed. We were breathing. We tasted in a circle. People made the small happy sounds that keep cooks alive. The CFO set down his spoon and said, finally. He had noticed the separate utensils I'd placed for him. He had noticed I didn't say gluten-free as a question. He had noticed being seen. Halfway through the tasting, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number lobby, K. Of course, he was never going to miss the stage. I typed to Ria under the table. He's here. I will handle. 2 structures, I said, placing 2 one-pagers on the table. Option A, a 3-year master services agreement with predictable per-head pricing and seasonal menus. Option B, a 6-week pilot, 2 events, 2 executive lunches so you can test the cadence. We'll review then, lock the long-term if we've earned it. I tapped the second page. Either way, vendor of record is Paper Lantern Provisions. Same kitchen, same team, separate legal name. Our Café brand stays public-facing. Your compliance team gets exactly 1 invoice trail. Facilities exhaled like someone had opened a window. The COO smiled at the clean outline. It's amazing how far a crisp grid can carry a room. The door opened without a knock. Kai walked in like a commercial. Slate jacket, perfectly late. He set his sleek silver folder on the table so the logo faced up. Apologies for traffic, he said cheerfully. Kai Lei, managing partner, guided by Kai. We'll be your growth engine. I stood still, quiet first always. Let the tone settle. Then adjust it. Rhea was a statue in a blazer. The COO looked from him to me like she'd walked into a family photo with strangers. I smiled and did not move my hands. We've met, I said, eyes on the clients. This is my brother. He advises on brand. Today's presentation is menu logistics and culture design. Perfect, Kai said, already flipping a tab. Let's talk footprint. You're leaving money on the table. Micro-franchise to the East Side Ghost Kitchen by Q3. Then retail chili oil. We can meet. Context, I said, soft but sharp enough. The word is a break. His mouth kept forming the next sentence, then stopped. Today is about whether our food and operational disciplines solve Puget Mutual's specific problem. Scale is a separate meeting. The CFO tilted his head. He was not annoyed. He was curious. My favorite audience. Kai recovered. Of course, he said smoothly. And to make that work, you'll want a single point of contact. That would be me. Strategy Capital Procurement. Vendor of record is on the agenda, I said, sliding the paper forward with 2 fingers. Paper Lantern Provisions managed by me. The Café brand remains for guests. Catering is its own lane. He picked up the page unread. We emailed last night, he told Rhea brightly. I'm primary. Rhea did not blink. I received it, she said, neutral as clean water. And I confirmed Mira remains point of contact for the pilot. A strand inside me unnodded. The COO leaned into the food again, like adults returning to the main plot after a toddler runs through the room. Talk me through service flow on a 500-person town hall, she said. I did, from loading bay timings to power drops for induction burners to where we stage lemon wedges so the line doesn't stall. I described the basket I assign 1 human to carry that contains exactly 5 things: microplane backup ladle tape, a rag, and a permanent marker that only writes when you hold your breath. People smiled. Logistics is love in spreadsheet form. When I finished, facilities said, that's the first time someone has asked about our elevator's personality. It sticks between 3 and 4. I'd learned that from Rhea. I'd planned for it. Kai cleared his throat. He couldn't help himself. This is all great small room thinking, he said. But the opportunity is. Forgive me, I said, still gentle. 1 compliance note for the room. I turned to the CFO. You'll see a recent trademark application for our cafe's name under an entity called L&L IP Holdings. That is not the contracting party today. Until our family finishes that discussion, we are performing under a separate vendor name. Same kitchen, same insurance, same health grade. No drama on your books. The room absorbed it like adults do. No one flinched. They simply appreciated that future paperwork would not surprise them. Kai set down his pen. You just confused the client, he said, impatient now. There's a version where you trust me, and we stop making this so hard. I trust food safety, I said. I trust payroll. I trust the crew who show up at 5 a.m. I trust the person who gets sued when a line goes wrong. Today, that person is me. It wasn't loud. It landed anyway. The HR director broke the air like a hostess rescuing a party. I have a fun question, she said, bright. Can you do a dish that tells a story? Our CEO wants a moment to open the quarter. Bless her. Yes, I said, and lifted a covered tray. There's a dish my grandfather made during storms. He kept a paper lantern lit through blackouts. He said, if you keep the light, people will find you. We call this lantern rice. I removed the cover. A shallow bowl of turmeric rice, grilled scallions, tiny cubes of caramelized pork belly, a fried quail egg like a sunspark. On the side, a miniature paper lantern on a toothpick hand-folded by Amy at the host stand after school. I set one in front of each person. No speech, just the thing and the story. The COO put a hand to her throat. The room went quiet the good way. In the reflection on the glass, I saw my own face soften. When we finished, the COO closed her notebook. "We'll start with the pilot," she said. 2 events, 2 executive lunches. If the pilot feels like this meeting, we'll sign the 3-year agreement. Keep it under paper lantern for now. Please send a calendar hold today. I nodded once, no squeal. Internally, every tendon danced. We shook hands. Signatures would come later. We cleaned up. Rhea stacked plates in the quiet way people do after a win. As we stepped into the hallway, Kai caught my elbow. "Cute performance," he said softly. "But you can't spin up entities overnight. Paper lantern is just a name you typed." I held his gaze. "It's a name I typed last year on a state form when I did a pop-up for a school fundraiser. DBA, under my own LLC. Insurance attached. Licenses current. I can read a calendar and a law, Kai." He blinked. He had not expected prepared to be retroactive. He tried another door. "They like me," he said. "Clients like a vision guy." "Great," I said. "Then go find one who wants vision. I have lunch service at 11. We rode the elevator down together. It stuck between 3 and 4 for a breath, because of course it did. The doors opened like a sigh. On the sidewalk, Seattle had decided on blue. We walked in step for half a block. It felt like being kids again before labels hardened into armor. Then he said without looking at me, "You will sign that management agreement." "No," I said. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Dad will make you." "Dad doesn't hold the health permits," I said. "Dad doesn't write schedules or train staff or meet inspectors at 6 a.m. You'll need me to do any of the things you promised. You'll come back with sweet words or sharp ones. Either way, the answer is still no." He stopped. "You're being small." "I'm being specific," I said. "There's a difference." I left him on the corner and walked to my car. My hands shook. Not fear. The aftershocks of not flinching. Back at the cafe, the lunch line had already found us. Noah lifted a chin in my direction. I nodded back. Mrs. Alvarez sat at table 3 with a laptop and a stack of forms. I slid into the seat across from her. "How was the show?" she asked. "We got the pilot," I said, "under paper lantern. Clean." "Good," she said. "Then sign here and here." She turned the laptop toward me. I filed a letter of protest on the trademark application this morning and queued a state-level notice of opposition for the trade name transfer. It won't solve everything, but it slows the train. Sometimes the goal is to buy time to breathe. "You're the best kind of vigilante," I said. "I'm a woman who likes rules followed," she said. "Also payroll, today." We funded payroll from the original account. Deposits were still short by 3%, but not fatal. I called the processor and was put on hold to music that sounded like patience being stapled to a wall. At 2 p.m., Tess slipped in holding a cardboard tube. "Art delivery," she said, and unfurled a poster she'd printed overnight. Paper lantern provisions in clean black letters. A tiny folded lantern in the corner, and below it, catering by the team behind Lantern and Lark. We taped it to the office door. It felt like the smallest act. It felt like a flag. At 3:17 p.m., my phone lit with a bank alert. New signature, added to deposit account L&L IP Holdings, LLC. I stared at it until the numbers lost meaning. Kai was still moving. The trap didn't care that I'd stepped around it. It was happy to build a second. At 3:19 p.m., an email pinged from the County Health Department, routine inspection, tomorrow 7:30 a.m. Inspections are random, and sometimes they are not. I pictured Kai smiling at a number he had saved. Noah leaned on the counter. "Bad?" he asked. "Predictable," I said. "We'll be ready." We cleaned like the Pope was coming. We labeled every squeeze bottle like it had a diploma. I tossed the jar of sat from the back corner, the one with oil that crawls. I wasn't going to give anyone a red crescent to photograph. At closing, Dad walked in. He looked older in the fluorescent light. He stood by the pastry case, like a man visiting a town he used to own. "Your brother says you made a scene," he said. "I cooked," I said. "We got the pilot." He nodded once as if achievements were radios he could turn down. "Kai is trying to bring us into the world," he said. "You are making the world small." I am keeping our name out of a document that erases us, I said. No heat, just the sentence. He pressed his mouth tight. You think you know more than me? No, I said. I think I know different. He looked at the tilted sign through the window. The sky had shifted to that particular Seattle evening where every car feels like it's carrying a song you can almost hear. Your mother is worried, he said. I know, I said. Tell her I listened. I didn't sign. He left without a goodbye. He does that when he doesn't have an argument, only a feeling. I closed the door behind him and turned the lock. The streetlight over the awning flickered, then steadied. I stood there for a moment with my forehead against cool glass and let my breath catch up. We had a pilot. We had a name that wasn't stolen. We had a health inspection at dawn and a brother who thought pressure made diamonds, not dust. I had a crew who believed in how we salt our rice. I had a basil plant on the office shelf like a tiny green dare. I woke at 5 to the sound of rain, trying to remember how to be rain. Thin, hesitant. The kind Seattle does when it's thinking about you. I put rice on. I sharpened my knife like it might answer questions. At 6:10 a.m., Noah rolled in with 2 thermometers, new sanitizer test strips, and that coffee he calls courage. We're good, he said. He says it like a fact. It helps. Amy bounced through the door with a braid and a grin. She set out chopsticks in rows like soldiers doing yoga. Today's the day, she whispered. Today's the day, I said. By 7:20, everything was labeled like a library. Congee at 61 degrees C and climbing. Cold table at 3 degrees. Garlic oil portioned in the walk-in, not a drop on the line. The jar of sate that tried to be a warning yesterday was gone. I threw it out. I wasn't going to give a stranger our red crescent. The bell above the door clicked at 7:31. The inspector stepped in with a clipboard and a tired smile. Blue gloves in his back pocket. Morning, he said. I'm Ruiz. Morning, Ruiz, I said. I'm Mira, person in charge. He took in the room without moving his head much. It's a skill. Random, he said. Plus a complaint. We'll be thorough. My heart did one clean thud. Let's do it, I said. He washed his hands like a surgeon. He checked sanitizer buckets. He glanced at the date dots and then actually looked at them, which most inspectors don't. He opened the walk-in and stood still a second. People who know kitchens do that. They listen to the cold. He pointed to the garlic oil. Acidified, he asked. Yes, I said. pH logs are there. I held up the notebook like a student who studied. He checked the log. 3.6, he read. Nice. Noah moved like air. He replaced a cutting board before Ruiz had to ask. He swapped a dull pan for a clean one. He is the kind of person who fixes a thing and then fixes the thing that will become a thing later. Ruiz's pen tapped on the clipboard. Complaint mentioned garlic and oil left out near a mop sink, he said. Yesterday evening. Photo attached. He looked at me. We didn't find that today. We don't store anything near the mop sink, I said. We tossed a jar last night because I didn't like the way the oil looked. It stained paper. Lesson learned. He nodded. He wrote corrected prior to inspection in neat block letters. He checked the cold hold again. He pulled the top off the congee and let the steam hit his face. Smells like my grandmother's kitchen, he said without meaning to. A small gift. He held up a piece of blue tape I had mislabeled on a quart of pickled shallots. I'd written the prep date and the week, but not the day of discard. Fix, he said. Fixing, I said. Amy ran for a pen like it was a relay race. Ruiz stepped into the office to check our permit, our last inspection, our hand-washing log. He paused with the folder open. Quick thing, he said over his shoulder. Someone emailed our office at 5:41 a.m. asking to add L&L IP Holdings LLC as the party of record on your permit. Same someone asked for copies of your last 3 inspections. My skin prickled. He kept reading. They CC'd your Café email and a hello at Paper Lantern Provisions address. They signed Kai Lei Managing Partner. Is he authorized? I swallowed. He is not, I said. Vendor name for catering is Paper Lantern Provisions. The Café permit remains under my parents. I'm the designated person in charge. Good, he said and closed the folder. We don't change permits by email anyway. He said it like he sees this kind of attempt more often than he likes. He walked the dish area. He checked the hot water temp. He took a sanitation strip between forefinger and thumb, like a magician dipped it, checked the shade of pink. Perfect, he said. The only out of compliance today is a sanitizer bucket at the bar that's too weak. You corrected it. I'm marking satisfactory. No closure, no fines. I let breath leave my body like a secret. Noah grinned without showing teeth. Amy clapped her hands once and then looked guilty for clapping. Ruiz handed me a pale yellow copy of his notes. One more thing, he said, casual. The person who filed the complaint used industry jargon. They said, garlic and oil hazard, back corner shelf, sanitizer under 50 ppm sneeze, and sate jar. Not a customer. Someone who has stood in a kitchen. He didn't need to say the rest. He didn't need to say the name. The detail that gave it away wasn't the jargon. It was sate. That's June's word. That's my word. Customers say chili oil. People who've worked a Vietnamese line say sate. Kai knows what to call things because he grew up here, but he never says sate. He says chili paste like a deck. Thanks for taking us seriously, I said. Thanks for being serious, he said back. He peeled off his gloves like a man who's learned to do messy things carefully. He left in a slice of sunlight and paperwork. We cheered the quiet way. Mrs. Alvarez appeared like she always does when you need a grown-up who deals in numbers. She handed me a printed copy of the merchant account change she had filed. Bank freeze starts at noon, she said. Temporary. Enough to get their attention. Which bank, I asked. The old one and the new one. She said. We flagged both. The only leverage you have when someone opens new doors behind your back is to close the hallway. She looked at the inspector's notes. She saw the word email and winced. He put it in writing, she said. Good. At 9:12 a.m., the back door rattled. A courier shifted a stack of boxes against his knee. Delivery for Lantern and Lark, he said, bored. We didn't order anything, I said. Name says L&L IP Holdings, he said, reading. Suite 402. Your address is on the label, though. Back entrance, some co-packer in Kent. Box says fragile. He set the boxes by the mop sink before I could stop him. The irony was not subtle. I cut the tape with the back of my knife. Cardboard rasped. Bubble wrap sighed. Inside 12 glass jars nestled like eggs. Labels gleamed like they thought they mattered more than contents. Lantern and Lark, Chili Crisp, the label read. Tiny batches, family recipe. There was a line about a paper lantern and storms. My grandfather's story, but smoothed out, shaved clean, a brand team's idea of texture. The back of the label had a QR code and a website I didn't recognize. Distributed by L&L IP Holdings, LLC. The net weight was wrong for what we actually make. The ingredient list listed bell peppers because they test well with people who fear heat. It had my grandfather's name spelled with the wrong accent mark. Amy sucked in a breath like a gasp hurts. They stole your story, she said. She is 16, so she still thinks stories belong to the people who lived them. Noah peered at the packing slip. PO number, he said. Ordered by Guided by Kai. Shipped to Café. Billed to Suite 402. He wanted you to see it. Or he wanted a photo of it on our shelf to post with a caption about full circle. Either way, it was proof. It wasn't even good proof. It was lazy proof. That somehow made it worse. I picked up one jar. It was heavy and cold. The oil inside didn't move right. Too much soybean oil. Not enough patience. My phone buzzed. A text from Kai, excited for you to see the first run. Meet me at noon. We'll pop a jar together, old times. A second text from Dad, come to the house tonight. Talk like family. Don't embarrass your brother. The world does not know how to read a room. I needed air. I lifted one box and walked it out the back door. The alley behind our cafe is a thin slice of asphalt and stories. It smells like coffee and wet cardboard and once a raccoon. The dumpster sat like a patient robot. The brick wall held heat like a hand. Tess stood there as if summoned a strip of sunlight in her hair, a set of keys around her finger. You okay? She asked. No, I said. Then stand, she said, and breathe. I told her about the inspector, about the email, about the jars. I held one up. It shone like a fake coin. She stared at the label. He went retail without you, she said. He tried to move the permit without you. He rerouted money without you. She looked at the back door. What would make this place yours again? Keys, I said. And a wall he can't move through. Okay, she said and spun the ring. I brought Luis. Luis is the building's maintenance lead. He stepped from the shadows like a gentle mountain. He held a toolkit and the calm of a man who has seen every permutation of human forgetfulness. "Ricky," he asked. "Please," I said. "Front and back," he asked. "Front, back, and office," I said. New alarm code. New Wi-Fi password. Paper lantern devices on a separate network. Sign the comms closet door so only staff know the panel. He nodded. "Give me an hour." "You have 20 minutes, I said and smiled because he likes a challenge. He grinned. 15, he said. I pulled my phone and called Mrs. Alvarez. "I need a legal thing," I said. "I want to add a person in charge designation to our health file with my phone number only. And I want to add a note to our bank accounts that no one can be added as a signatory without my written consent and Mom's." "Mom's," she repeated. "You only need one of your parents. Mom is the one who told me not to sign," I said. "She's in the quiet with me. Asking your mother to stand with you is a decision," she said. "Make it clean." I texted Mom, "Can you meet me out back for 5 minutes?" "No, Dad, just us." She arrived in 6. She wore her cardigan and her pastry shoes, and a look I recognized a woman who has stacked chairs in her sleep. She saw the jars. She put a hand to her mouth, like a laugh had been stolen. "He took Grandpa's story," she said. "He tried," I said. "We can stop the rest." I told her about the inspection email, about the bank freeze, about the permit request. I told her about the pilot and paper lantern and the poster on my office door. I told her I needed her name on one paper and her silence about it for 24 hours. She listened like a chef reads a bubbling pot. I watched her decide. It was small and fierce. She nodded. "Tell me where to sign," she said. We signed 2 forms in the alley on the back of a cardboard box, one for the bank to require dual consent for any new signatory, one to designate me as the only person in charge for health inspections and permit communications. Mrs. Alvarez sent the forms via secure link to our phones. Tess witnessed. Luis countersigned as a building officer. It felt like a legal ceremony performed beside a dumpster, which is to say, it felt real. Mom took the pen back and stared at the label again. "He thinks this is bigger than us," she said. "He thinks it is progress. He thinks a label is a story," I said. "He thinks packaging is a blessing." She looked at me the way she did when I was 8 and added sugar instead of salt. "Your brother is good at talking," she said softly. "You are good at seeing. Today, I would like to see with you." Luis swapped the back door cylinder with a flick. The old key looked small in his palm. He dropped it into a Ziploc like he was tagging evidence. "Codes changed," he said. "Alarm reset. Don't give the new code to anyone you don't want to see when you're tired. He is a poet, he just doesn't know." We carried the jars inside. I set one on the office desk next to the basil plant Tess had given me. The plant looked braver. At 11:32 a.m., the front line began to hum. The lunch crowd came in like a tide that knows your name. I put the jars in a box on a shelf I could see. I kept them in view because I needed to remember what I was choosing not to be. Noon came, then 12:07, then a text from Kai Lobby. 2 minutes. I didn't answer. At 12:15, the back door rattled. The lock did not know him anymore. He knocked. Noah reached for the handle. I shook my head. A second knock, louder. Then a ping, a photo of the front door, and his face a smile with edges. "New locks," the text read. I wiped my hands. I walked to the front. I opened the door halfway and stepped into the threshold. The street smelled like cumin and diesel and summer. He looked good. Manipulators know how to look like good news. "You changed the locks," he said. "I changed the locks," I said. "That's a bad signal," he said. "To investors, to family. It's a clear signal," I said. "To me." He offered a jar like a flower. "We did the first run," he said. "Read the back. I wrote the copy myself." "I did read the back," I said. "You spelled Grandpa's name wrong." He blinked. "No one will notice." "I notice," I said. He lowered the jar. "Dad says you're being dramatic," he said. And the word dramatic did what it always does in our house. It tried to make the person feeling things the problem. "I'm being specific," I said again. We passed inspection. The complaint used your phrases. You emailed the health department to change our permit. You rewrote deposits. You ordered product with our name to our door. You can keep calling me dramatic, or you can sit with the list. He exhaled. "Mira," he said soft, like we were 8 again, and he could convince me to trade Halloween candy. "This is too big for you to run like a neighborhood cafe. I'm giving you cover." I'm making you safe and rich. You already tried that line, I said. He tightened. You can't win without me. I just did, I said. We landed the pilot without you, under paper lantern. You're not the point of contact. You're not on the permit. You're not on the door. He stared past me at the tilted sign. You'll straighten that before the weekend, he said, as if he could still tell me where to put my hands. I like it tilted, I said. It tells the truth. He laughed once, not kindly. Dad will fix this, he said. Tonight. Tonight we'll talk, I said. But first call the co-packer and stop production. If any jar with our cafe's name touches a shelf, I will go very, very public. His eyebrows lifted. Public how he asked. I stepped back into the vestibule and pointed to the sign Tess had taped to the office door earlier. Paper lantern provisions. Below it, we had added a second line in black marker. We do not sell retail products. We sell food and care. Public like that, I said. And public like every person who eats here. And public like the event team that just saw us run a meeting better than you run a phone call. Don't make me choose between the quiet way and the loud way. He looked at the jar. He looked at me. For a beat, we were children on a seesaw waiting to see who jumps first. He put the jar down on the host stand with a click. You always ruin easy things, he said. I ruin lazy things, I said. There's a difference. He turned and left without waiting for the bell to finish ringing. The sound hung in the air like a note trying to be brave. At 1:03 p.m., my phone buzzed. A calendar invite from RIA Pilot Kickoff, Thursday, 11th. 2. The COO had added a comment, loved the lantern rice story. At 1:11 p.m., the bank called. We see unusual activity, the woman said. An attempted address change at 12:22 p.m. We've blocked it, pending verification. Did you request this? No, I said. Thank you for the freeze. Your accountant is very persuasive, she said. We like her. At 2:40 p.m., Mrs. Alvarez sent a screenshot. Trademark letter of protest received. Status processing. You've got 3 weeks of fog. Use it. At 3:05 p.m., Dad texted, come at 7. Bring your papers. Don't bring outsiders. Outsiders probably meant Mrs. Alvarez. It probably meant facts. At 4:12 p.m., Mom sent a separate text, I will sit next to you. The alley decision kept echoing. Keys, codes, Mom's name beside mine. It didn't change who my brother was. It changed who could open our doors. Power isn't always a dramatic speech. Sometimes it's a cylinder of metal, changed by a man with a gentle laugh. Dinner rush hit like a good song. People ordered extra lime. A kid in a red raincoat said, your rice tastes like sunshine. I wanted to put that on a t-shirt and never take it off. We closed with the tired joy you get when you earned it. Noah wiped the steam wand like a ritual. Ami stacked chairs like origami. June thumped my shoulder with the back of his hand and said, soup was clean today. That's his way of saying he's proud. I took one of the jars and set it in the trash. Not the recycling, the trash. It's petty. Don't lecture me. Some things deserve to disappear. At 6:40 p.m., I washed my hands, changed my shirt, and put the paper lantern folder in my bag. I tucked the inspector's pale yellow sheet in the front pocket. I slid Tessa's basil plant carefully into a cardboard cup so the dirt wouldn't spill. I wanted something alive with me. I locked the front door with a key that was mine. The sign tilted the way it has for months. I didn't straighten it. Not yet. On the drive to my parents' house, the sky did that expensive blue that makes strangers fall in love with this city. I passed a man singing to his dog. I passed a woman crying into a phone with the kind of quiet that breaks you. The world kept doing its thing while my small family war rattled like lids on boiling pots. I parked. I sat for a second with the engine off and the basil on my lap. I could smell the leaves, peppery, green. A plant unapologetically itself. I knocked. Mom opened. She took the plant from me and smiled small. Dad sat at the table with 2 cups of tea he didn't drink. Kai leaned against the counter with a face that said he could still win. He looked at my folder and smirked. Came armed, he said. I came accurate, I said. Put the papers away, Dad said. We talk like family. We act like family first, I said, and set the inspector's sheet on the table anyway. Then we talk. I placed 3 things in a row, like a chef building a plate. The inspection results with the line about the email request, the bank freeze confirmation, the packing slip with guided by Kai and Lantern and Lark chili crisp. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't look at the ceiling. I looked at my father. These are facts, I said. We can choose what to do with them. We cannot choose that they are true. Dad's jaw worked. He stared at the packing slip like it had insulted his knife. Kai started to speak. I raised a hand. You will get your turn, I said, but not to explain the facts away. Only to say what you intend to do now. Mom sat beside me and put her hand over mine. It was warm and flower-soft, and the bravest thing she has done in months. No one moved. The teacups went cold between us. The room smelled like jasmine and dust. Kai spoke first. Of course he did. The complaint, not me, he said smoothly. Anyone could spot your sloppy back corner. I filed the trademark to protect us. The bank change was a bridge, temporary. You blew up process because you crave control. Dad nodded, grateful for a script. Your brother is fixing things, he said. You make storms. I touched the inspection sheet with one finger. Ruiz read your email out loud, I said. He said the sender CC'd a hello at Paper Lantern Provisions address. He said the sender used our kitchen map and the word Sete. That's ours. You didn't file to protect us, Kai. You filed to park us. I tapped the bank freeze notice. This is payroll. These are rent and rice. That 3% missing was our dishwasher's hours. He rolled his eyes. Details, he said. Exactly, I said. Details are where people live. Dad exhaled hard. Enough, he said. You will apologize. You will stop this public disrespect. Sign the agreement, Mira. Tonight we eat as a family. Quiet devastation, not loud drama. I kept my voice low. No. The words settled in the room like a new piece of furniture that wasn't leaving. Kai laughed once. You're not serious. I slid a single page across the table. A term sheet. Plain, unfancy. My handwriting boxed each point. Here are my conditions to stay inside Lantern and Lark, I said. No poems, just lines. He didn't take it, I read. One I said. Immediate withdrawal of the Lantern and Lark trademark application and any trade name transfer. File the rescission today. Copy me and Mrs. Alvarez. No parking our name anywhere I don't live. 2. Reverse the merchant reroute. Pay back every diverted dollar with 10% penalty. Not as a punishment. As interest on stress. 3. Destroy all retail product bearing our Café name. Every jar, every label, no soft launch, no friends and family, no just samples. If you want to build a sauce line, call it something else, and leave Grandpa's paper lantern out of your copy. 4. Remove the non-compete language from any family document. I don't sign cages. 5. Governance. If you want a board, fine. 3 seats. Mom, Dad, me. The accountant attends all meetings. Kai, you are welcome when invited. You do not sit at the head of a table you did not build. 6. Boundaries. Lantern and Lark remains the café. Paper Lantern Provisions remains catering under my management and permits. Budgets, payroll, and taxes separate. 7. A sentence I said and finally looked at him. You will say in front of staff, I moved too fast. I disrespected the work in this kitchen. I am sorry. Not for my ego. For the people you've been treating like background. The list lay between us like a small, steady fire. Dad leaned back as if the chair had betrayed him. You dare give orders to your father, he said. I set terms for my labor, I said. Your restaurant has been eating my sleep for 11 years. You want my hands, you get my lines. Kai pushed air through his teeth. You're insane, he said lightly. The way men say when they are cornered. I can have investors here by Friday. We can replace you with a culinary director who smiles. Do it, I said. But not with our name, not with my menus, not with my crew. You'll be serving lukewarm ideas in a month. Mom looked at the page. She didn't blink. Your conditions are clean, she said, almost to herself. Dad snapped his head toward her. Lynn, he said, a warning and a plea. She turned her teacup slowly, the way she ices cakes, steady and intent. Thuan, she said, and the softness in her voice was gone. He filed behind our back. He moved money. He tried to move permits. He put Grandpa's story on a jar and misspelled his name. She touched the term sheet. This is not disrespect. This is a fence. Fences keep what we love inside. Kai spread his hands. Mom, he said, turning charm on like a lamp. You hate paperwork. Let me carry that. Let me make you rich. Her mouth tightened. I don't hate paperwork, she said. I hate lying papers. She slid a second page from her cardigan pocket. My breath caught. She had printed the PIC form we signed in the alley. She set it beside my terms. I already chose who holds the keys, she said. Dad stared at the 2 pages as if they had appeared by trick. You two plotted, he said. We cooked, she said. You forgot that cooking is planning. Silence spread. You could hear the fridge hum. You could hear the tiny crack the teacup made as heat met room. Kai reached for the term sheet, then changed his mind and tapped the table instead. Even if I wanted to humor this, he said, I can't dissolve the IP entity today. It's complex. Investors are waiting. Timelines. Here's my timeline, I said. I slid a small black bundle onto the table and untied it. Keys. New brass. They caught light. These are the keys that open the cafe now, I said. Mom has a set. I have a set. I'll give you one when the filings hit my inbox. Until then, you don't enter our kitchen. Dad's face darkened. How dare you lock out my son? How dare your son try to lock out your daughter, I said. The door goes both ways. Kai frowned at the basil plant I'd set by my elbow. Still with the props, he said. It's not a prop, I said. It's a reminder that things grow in the right soil. He pushed away from the counter. You made me the villain, he said. Fine, be the martyr. But don't cry when vendors stop giving you discounts and banks stop taking your calls. You can't network your way out of being small. I don't want to be big, I said. I want to be honest. He laughed without joy. Honest doesn't scale. Neither does trust once you break it, I said. Dad stood chair legs scraping tile. Enough, he said again louder. Enough women fighting me in my house. Mom stood too. We are not fighting you, she said. We are fighting paper. We are fighting a son who thinks he is a storm. You taught us to keep the lantern lit. We are keeping it. I folded the inspection sheet and slid it back into the folder. I picked up the keys. I looked at my brother one last time as the person who shared my cereal when we were small. I love you, I said. I hope you learn to love something more than your own name. But in this business with these lines, we're done. The 2 words emptied the air. We're done. Didn't mean I would never see him again. It meant the part of me that kept hoping he would choose us first could sit down and rest. Dad pointed at the door. Go cool your head, he said. I'm cool, I said. I'm cooking. Tomorrow. Inspection passed. Pilot booked. Staff scheduled. I have work. Send me the rescissions by noon. After that, Paper Lantern moves out for good. Kai squinted. Moves out to where? Anywhere with a sink and a flame, I said. We already have permits. Rhea knows. Our clients don't care about drama. They care about food that shows up hot. Mom put a palm on Dad's forearm. He looked at her hand like it had turned into a map he couldn't read. Thuan, she said softly, but not weakly. If we lose Mira, we lose the kitchen. Your son cannot cook breakfast. He can make a spreadsheet talk. He cannot hold a knife for 10 hours. He cannot read steam. Choose what keeps the light. He sank back into his chair like a man sitting on the fact that the world he built had stairs he hadn't climbed. 48 hours, he said finally. Give your brother time. 24, I said. Noon tomorrow. We have a pilot kickoff Thursday. I need a clear table to plate on. Kai threw his hands up. You can't bend laws to your calendar, he said. I can bend access to my kitchen to my calendar, I said. And I just did. I gathered my folder. I lifted the basil. I let the leaves brush my chin. I walked to the door and slipped my shoes on, the way my mother taught me, heel-tapped toe snug. At the threshold, I turned. When you send me the filings, I said to Kai, I'll meet you outside with a hug. I mean that. But no more behind my back. No more secret signatures. No more using Grandpa's name to sell an oil he wouldn't eat. He leaned against the counter and forced a smile. You're a dramatic big sister, he said softer now, almost fond. You always were. I'm deliberate, I said, and let myself out. The air outside felt new. Not lighter, just honest. I sat in the car and shook for 10 seconds. Then I texted 3 people. To Mrs. Alvarez, term sheet delivered. Expect filings or dust by noon. Hold the freezes. To Noah, tomorrow I open. No one else opens no matter what. New code is in your pocket envelope. To Tess, I did the thing. She replied with a photo of my shop window, where she'd taped a note in perfect block letters. Tonight, rest. Tomorrow build. On my drive back, the city glittered like wet foil. A busker played a trumpet that made my heart hop. I passed our cafe and slowed. Through the glass, I saw June break down the line like he was folding a boat. Ami wiped the last table with the focus of a surgeon. Noah stood at the machine eyes on the door like a guard dog who reads poetry. I parked and went in through the back. My new key turned clean. The alarm beeped the new code like a secret handshake. We met in the office. How bad, June asked. Clear, I said, for 24 hours. Then clearer. I told them the truth in simple sentences. We passed inspection, the jars, the bank, the locks, the line I drew. I told them I would leave if the filings didn't come. I said the quiet thing, if I go, I want you paid and safe. If you choose to stay with my parents, I will not love you less. But if you want to come with me, I'll have a kitchen ready. No pressure. Think. Noah nodded once. Where you salt, I salt, he said. June snorted. Where your knife goes, mine goes. I hate moving. Don't make me move. Amy blinked fast. Will we still have lantern rice? She asked. We'll have rice, I said, and light. We laughed, which is how people cry when they don't want to. We locked up. I took the trash out, even though it wasn't my turn. The alley gave me that soft city night smell, wet cardboard ginger old dreams. I looked up at the tilted sign. It leaned like a shoulder. I smiled at it like an accomplice. No more hoping someone else will make the right decision for me. No more shrinking to keep the peace. The lantern was in my hands now. It had always been. I didn't sleep, but morning still came. Gray, polite. Seattle being Seattle. At 7:08 a.m., an email landed from L&L IP Holdings. Subject proposed path. Not rescissions, not apologies. A path. I didn't open it. At 8:02, a second email, this one from the state site trademark application, request to amend owner information. They were trying to rename the box without emptying it. I breathed in, out. Deadline was noon. I had a clock and a spine. By 9, we were on the line. Noah tuned the grinder by ear. June tested the kanji like a man listening for thunder. Ami reprinted menus because she decided the last font didn't feel like care. Ria called at 9:27. Pilot is locked, she said. Also, small surprise, your CFO has discretionary wellness funds. She can front half the pilot if you need to separate faster. Not investor money, I said, stomach easing. Prepay for work. That I can hold. She said you solved a problem she hasn't had words for in a year, Ria added. Sometimes that's worth cash. At 9:41, Mrs. Alvarez texted, no filings yet. Bank freeze holding. I can extend an hour, but not more. Fine. I never liked waiting. I like building. Tess slid in with a map. You know the old bakery on Minor, she asked? The one with the green awning and the oven that hates Tuesdays? Yeah, I said. Closed since March. Landlord's my plant customer, she said. He likes the way you label things. He'll let you do a one-day pop-up as a test tenancy if you want a clean table by tonight. I stared at her. Today? Doors at 6, she said. You'll feed 100 with your eyes closed. Then he'll talk month to month if it feels right. He's not corporate. He's a man with a building and a daughter who loves your pandan bread. I laughed. It sounded like I'd swallowed a bell. We have 5 hours of prep, I said. You have 5 years of prep, she said. Today is just plates. We called it out loud. Plan B. Pop up at 6. If filings arrived by noon, we'd plate lantern rice as a celebration. If not, we'd plate it as a declaration. At 10:12, the front door opened and Mr. Tran rolled in with his grandson. He is the one who folds napkins into boats like a hobby. He set an envelope on the counter. For the lantern, he said. I shook my head. You don't. Shh, he said. Long time ago, someone fronted me 3 months' rent for my tailor shop. It kept me alive. Pay me back when you forget why you needed it. He grinned. That's how I got paid. I opened it. A check, not huge, big enough to breathe. He added a second paper, a simple lease addendum for the old bakery. He owned it. Of course he did. Seattle is small that way. I like places where people remember kids' names, he said. You do that. Take the keys for the night. Prove it still matters. I put both hands on the counter to keep from falling through kindness. We'll make you lantern rice that hits your bones, I said. No limes that taste tired, he said, wagging a finger. Never, I said. At 11:12, my screen lit. Kai. Call me, he wrote. I didn't. At 11:41, another message from him. You win. I'll withdraw. Sign my version of the rescission. Attached 4 pages of words that handed back the name with a hook in the tail. A future co-branding right. A mutual non-disparagement clause that gagged truth. A friendlier non-compete disguised as brand integrity. I typed 3 letters and deleted them. I called Mrs. Alvarez. Is silence a strategy, I asked. Today, yes, she said. Noon is a boundary. If we don't get the real filings by then, we act. Don't negotiate with a person who thinks words are wallpaper. 11:58, 11:59. My phone ticked like it had a heartbeat. 12:01 p.m. An email from the state trademark application owner, withdrawal submitted. A second trade name transfer request to rescind filed. A third from the bank address change rollback complete. No message from Kai. No apology, just the paper moving the right direction. At 12:03, a final ping cease and desist reuse of paper lantern for catering pending family board review. From his lawyer. The nerve! I forwarded it to Mrs. Alvarez. She wrote back one line, board not constituted per your terms. Noise only. Then she added a smiley face drawn with characters like she was 12. I love her, I told the crew. They cheered by nodding and pouring water for each other. We finished prep with a kind of focused joy that makes time feel like a string you can pull tighter or let loose. At 4, we loaded Cambros into Tess's van and my car. Noah triple-checked the coolers. June taped a list to the inside lid like a surgeon leaving notes to future him. Amy carried the tiny paper lanterns in a bakery box like it held birds. The old bakery on Minor smelled like ghosts of cinnamon when we opened the door. The oven said hello with a cough. The floor creaked in one long sentence. The green awning out front flapped like a slow applause. Tess had swept. Luis had replaced a dead light bulb with one that made the room look like it had slept. We taped a big sheet of butcher paper to the window. One night only, paper lantern provisions. 6 p.m. Under it, Amy wrote, "Care not fuss" in block letters, and traced a tiny lantern in the corner. People began to line up at 5:20. I saw regulars. I saw strangers. I saw 2 women in office wear who looked like they wanted to exhale and be a person, not a role. Rhea stood near the door, hands in pockets, smile quiet. Mr. Tran sat on a folding chair like a king without a throne waiting for his bowl. I tied my apron. I looked at my hands. They looked like my mother's. I loved that. At 6 we opened. Lantern rice went out first. Kanji sang in bowls that didn't match. We set the tiny paper lanterns beside each plate. People asked if they could take them home. Yes, Amy said, but you have to keep them lit. We ran a line like a dance. Noah called times like a drummer, who also reads novels. June plated fish with a tenderness I will never stop loving. Tess floated, filling water, moving trash, telling a story to a child about a basil plant that refused to quit. Mrs. Alvarez sat at a small table with a laptop and the eyes of a hawk. She paid 2 invoices and blocked one suspicious attempt to make a new card on our merchant account. Nice try, she murmured into the glow. At 6:41, my father appeared in the doorway. He looked like a man who accidentally walked into a cathedral in jeans. He stood at the threshold for a long time and watched. He watched Amy talk to a couple like she was a host on a ship. He watched a guest taste lime caramel and close her eyes. He watched me head down, spoon steady moving. He stepped inside. Our eyes met. No anger. Just the kind of tired that tells the truth. "Where's your brother?" he asked, not unkind. "Not here," I said. He nodded. He looked around again, like he was reading the room with new glasses. "It is loud," he said, gesturing to the line, the plates, the clatter. "It is easy." Is, I said, but the loud is organized. He came closer to the pass. He didn't cross the line. He is old school that way. I went to the café at 5, he said. The kitchen was quiet. He searched for the word, found it, empty. June didn't look up, but his mouth smiled. My father saw it in the steel and nodded at him. Respect is a language both men speak. Dad put both palms on the edge of the pass, fingers spread like he was taking a pulse. "I did not know the quiet was your work," he said to me. "I thought the noise was the work." He shook his head small, almost amused at himself. I am an old man who knows how to cut meat. I forgot who marinates it overnight. I swallowed. The room blurred for half a second. I blinked it back. Do you have papers? I asked gently. He reached into his jacket. He handed me a simple printed email. From Kai to the state site, the bank, the county withdrawals confirmed. No hooks in the tail. A fourth email, this one to me, I withdrew. Do what you want. K. No apology. Fine. Paper moved is still paper moved. Dad exhaled. Your mother told me to come and look, he said, glancing at the line again. I looked. I choose the light. I choose you too, I said, on the other side of a fence. He half smiled. Fences keep what we love inside, he said, repeating my mother like a man who has been married long enough to know where wisdom lives. We stood there in a kind of peace, not a full one. A working peace, the kind you build while ladling. He cleared his throat. Come home tomorrow, he said. We will sign your terms. The board will be your mother, you and me. The accountant will attend, and I will try not to fall asleep. I'll bring coffee, I said. He glanced at the basil plant we had set on the windowsill. It looked bigger under the good light. You always loved green things, he said, and left like a man who had finally put down a bag he didn't know he was carrying. At 8:12, the last bowl went out. We handed Mr. Tran his second lantern rice to take home. Your lime wasn't tired, he said proudly. Your rice stood up on its own legs. Then he slipped me a small key on a ring. For mornings, he said. No one uses the bakery at dawn. You can prep here until your kitchen grows feet. I wanted to put my head on his shoulder and nap. Instead, I hugged him like a daughter hugs someone who remembers the first time she came to eat. We cleaned the way people clean when they earned it. Noah lost a thermometer and found it in a coat pocket. June told a bad joke, and we laughed like it was a good one. Amy counted the tiny lanterns and declared it a symbolic success when half went home. At 9:04, my phone buzzed. A single sentence from Kai. I hope you're happy. No question mark. I typed back. I hope you learn to be. I didn't send it. I locked my phone. Sometimes restraint is the bravest thing in a kitchen full of knives. The next morning at 9, we met in the back dining room of the cafe. Same table. Same light strip. Different weather inside us. Mom made tea we actually drank. Dad signed the rescission acknowledgement and the governance sheet. He initialed my 7 lines with a small grunt each time, like a man admitting the obvious. Mrs. Alvarez stamped everything with a notary seal that felt like a blessing. We posted a paper on the office corkboard, Boundaries Café vs. Catering. Left column lantern and lark, right column paper lantern provisions. Arrows where they touched, walls where they didn't. Everyone signed it with a Sharpie like it was a mural. At noon, I walked to the pass and taped up one new index card above the ticket rail. Quiet as work. Only that. The pilot lunch 2 days later was a machine with a heart. The COO high-fived me with a napkin. The CFO ate congee in the corner with the happiest face I've seen in a year. Facilities sent me a thank you email that contained the phrase, smooth as a well-oiled elevator. I printed it and stuck it on my fridge. Kai stayed away for a while. I heard through my father that he had rebranded the sauce line under a new name with a clean story that didn't borrow ours. Good. He can sell heat without stealing light. 3 months passed, then 6. Paper Lantern moved into the old bakery on Minor, on a real lease that fit us like a soft shirt. We kept dinner service at the cafe simple and strong. We gave everyone health insurance by month 5. June smiled on Tuesdays, and sometimes on a surprise Thursday, if the broth was perfect. Noah built a drink menu for our supper club that tasted like weather. Amy turned 17 and started a paid apprenticeship. She still writes symbolic success on prep lists when we run out of tape. Mom stopped arriving at 4 a.m. She comes at 8, puts one hand on my shoulder, and asks, Do you need limes even when she can see the case? Dad learned how to say, We're closed without apologizing. He straightened the sign one afternoon, and I tilted it 2 degrees back on purpose. He laughed and let it be. We named our monthly supper club Keep the Light. We set one rule: 1 seat at each event goes free to a person who is carrying too much. It's anonymized. Mrs. Alvarez runs the list like a saint who loves spreadsheets. The chair is always filled. People send us thank you notes that say things like, I remembered how to taste. 9 months after the pop-up, the COO from Puget Mutual came for dinner with her wife. She left a napkin under her plate with 3 words on it. Care changes culture. I put it next to the basil plant in the window. That plant is now a bush. It keeps making leaves and daring me to keep up. And my brother, he resurfaces in texts that sound like weather reports. Big week, new partner, we should talk. Sometimes we do, not about work, about his dog, about a movie I will hate, about a podcast he thinks is wisdom. I answer when I can be kind. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with knocks. We're not healed. We're better. That counts. If you've been listening this whole time, here's what I learned the hard way. The person who keeps the lantern lit often looks boring until the lights go out. Quiet is labor. Boundaries are love-wearing boots. And the day you stop being the good child might be the first day you become a good adult. We keep the mustard principle alive. 1 detail per scene that sticks. Today, it's the basil plant in the window and the index card above the pass. Some days it's a jar of sate we don't stock. Some days it's the creak near the register that tells me someone is about to ask for hot water. Every day, it's the tilt of the sign that reminds me, perfection is a story marketers like more than we do. We end our supper clubs with a question. I'll end this story with the same one for you right now. When did you draw a line that kept your name from being folded into someone else's plan? And what tiny, ordinary object helped you hold it?